Public comment. If I can ask Mr. McNamara to come up to the mic.
By the way, take no coaching.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, all.
Good morning.
I'm associating my remarks to the operating budget, which I know is near and dear to NYCHA. When I was injured in NYCHA's employ as a police officer and could no longer perform the task of police officer, they quickly expunged me from their budget. So I have experience in that respect. NYCHA continues to lack empathy for employees, as I have described on multiple occasions and witnessed at these very board meetings. At the March meeting, I provide Secretary Huertas with a copy of the relevant collective bargaining agreement documenting my entitlement to unlimited sick leave, which NYCHA long denies. As usual, there was no response from NYCHA. NYCHA is in steady denial on this very point. Since that meeting, I asked General Counsel Farber on April 12th, the legal department imposed communication embargo and meet with me to discuss my matter. I received the same old recycled 2012 letter, which is of no value, no credibility, and no accuracy. Recently, NYCHA again demonstrated how expendable employees can be. This is no different than their callous disregard for me decades ago. The city of New York recognized a number of police officers as line-of-duty deaths, sometimes decades later. There was one case in particular where a transit officer injured in 1981 ultimately expired from his injuries in 2011. And the police commissioner said they fell through the cracks. People don't fall through the cracks. They're ignored and forgotten. My circumstances aren't so different from that particular officer, as I'm at perpetual risk, and I don't plan on falling through the cracks. I don't plan on being denied the benefits that myself and my family are entitled to. The institutional apathy demonstrated by this ungrateful city and ungrateful authority needs to stop, and decency should prevail. A steady impasse between my resolve and your indifference, and my resolve is going to continue. Latoya, last July 26th, I sent you correspondence with a number of requests, including one was that NYCHA memorialize my service and the actions to be taken and the recognition to be given in the event there is a direct causal link between my line of duty injury and my ultimate expiration, which would result in my classification as a line of duty death. This memorialization would ensure a future NYCHA administration has awareness and will support all appropriate recognition and benefits commensurate with the line of duty death. Will NYCHA memorialize my service as requested?
Are you completed with your public comment, Mr. McFadden?
No, I'm looking for a response to that.
So the way this works is you provide your comment,
Okay,
and we accept it for the record. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, again, this is an illustration of NYCHA's apathy. Mayor de Blasio recently stated that we need to do more to support our police. NYCHA never provided me support, and again asked the NYCHA administration to remedy that. You refused to comment this meeting. You imposed this embargo and refused to meet with me in person or respond to my letters when I've trumped every argument you have. So I leave it to you to ponder and perhaps respond. Otherwise, I'll see you again. Happy holidays to all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes our public comments portion, and we may proceed with the regular calendar. I'd like to start with a motion to adopt the minutes of our regular meeting held on November 29th.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We may proceed with the chair's report.
Thank you. Good morning. And I also bring you holiday greetings. I will just start off by saying, something that this authority under our leadership, has really sought to do is work very closely to ensure that NYCHA is also a good place to work. And we have spent time both investing in our employees, both in training. There's always more to do in leadership development, and also ensuring that people have the right benefits and salaries commensurate with their work. And so individual employee actions and discussions should be held, in confidence, and that's a conversation. Those are conversations that we respect greatly. And the particular case that was raised this morning has been adjudicated for years, and obviously to the displeasure of Mr. McNamara. But we thank him for his comments and obviously his service to the city. So with that said, there has been lots doing here at the New York City Housing Authority. First, I want to begin today by welcoming Edna Wells Handy. Where is she? Is she here? There she is. Let's welcome Edna as our new acting Chief Compliance Officer. Some of you who've spent time in government will know that Ms. Wells Handy most recently served as counsel to the NYPD Police Commissioner, Commissioner Bratton, and now O'Neill. She began her legal career as a law clerk at the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York in 1976, and also served as the Assistant DA and Bureau Chief at the Kings County District Attorney's Office. She was Vice President for Legal Affairs at the New York City Health and Hospital Corporation and Deputy Attorney General for Administration for then New York Attorney General Andrew Cuomo. From 2004 to 2007, Ms. Wells Handy served as Deputy Executive Director of the New York Department of Education. She also served as co-leader of the change management team responsible for the redesign of the division's human resources diversity initiatives. Ms. Wells Handy previously served as Commissioner of Department of Citywide Administrative Services, also known as DCAS, where she oversaw 2,100 employees supporting more than 150,000 city workers and 80 agencies in critical areas of civil service, human capital, and equal opportunity and diversity matters. Ms. Wells Handy earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree from NYU and a Juris Doctor from Georgetown University Law School. I don't know how she does all this. She's also a candidate for an MPA at Columbia University now in its School of International and Public Affairs. We are incredibly excited to welcome her to the team. We will be working very closely. I will be working very closely with her, as will this board, as we begin to set up the first ever executive external compliance department, and really look forward to her ongoing work in that area. So welcome, Edna. Thank you. We also have some other news that, which kind of an administration. There's always the natural sort of turnover that happens in an organization, and doesn't make it any easier. But we expect it, and as I've continued to say, this organization is bigger than one person. It really does rely on the expertise, the breadth, the commitment of the 11,000 men and women who work and think about creating home for the 1 in 14 New Yorkers. Our Chief Financial Officer, Karen Caldwell, is moving on to a new professional assignment, and we are very excited for her, but we are incredibly grateful for her steady, some might say steely leadership over the course of the last 2 years. I could not have done what we've been able to do in these past 2 years, whether it's the continued balancing of the organization's annual operating budget, the redeployment and hiring of almost 260 frontline staff folks while cutting a total of about 600 central office positions. These are hard choices, but what guided Karen's work and her commitment was, how do we make lives better for our residents by putting resources at the developments? That's been her driving focus. She has built and worked a team that is here and strong and will continue that work. And so we want to thank her for that, and we wish her so much goodwill in her next phase. So thank you, Karen. Jean Weinberg is here. I don't see her as well, but she'll get a little shout out. Jean Weinberg, our Chief Communications Officer. She's been with us for almost 3 years, I believe. Also a government alum, has been doing just tremendous work to really refashion and remake the way that the authority communicates with its key stakeholders, its residents, our employees, and the many, many other stakeholders who care about public housing. She is leaving us to join the Bloomberg Philanthropies and to do really fantastic work in the issue of public health, which is where she got her start. And so we wish her well. She too has built just a really fantastic, dynamic team, identified talent within the organization, promoted that talent, brought in new leaders, and we want to thank her. I want to thank her for her leadership. So in absentia, Jean Weinberg. Thank you. So all of this means that there will be some some organizational changes that we will be announcing in the coming days and weeks. We will keep you, the board, updated as that happens. But again, the only constant is change, and we are very focused on our plan of continued implementation of NYCHA. So with that, I want to jump right into our report. So over the course of the last 6 or 7 weeks, lots of focus and attention on the agency's health and safety areas of work. We announced on Monday that in partnership with the Health and Hospitals Corporation, that the City of New York would be offering free testing to children who were between the ages of 6 months and 8 years old, who resided in units where we actually did do inspections in 2016. This free testing is available any New York City Health and Hospitals location. Families can call 311 for more information, to make an appointment, and we want to make sure this information is broadly broadly shared and disseminated. Letters either have or will soon go out, along with robocalls to these families, to these specific households, alerting them of this issue. We're tracking, or our colleagues will be tracking, where and how, and the number of folks who request this service. We continue to, just want to make sure, as I've stated in 2017, that we would continue our annual inspection program of in-unit inspections to ensure moving us closer to local law 1 compliance. We continue to do that. We are, I think as of this morning, GM, approximately 99% done with those inspections. I mean, there are 40 or so that remain, and all of the work associated with those apartments is scheduled to be completed by March 31st, as we had earlier indicated. We continue to evolve our program now, and we'll begin the common area inspections, which is another part of our work and component of becoming in compliance with local law 1. So this will be and has to be a central part of our work. And we are working closely with all of our colleagues in government to make sure that this is a successful effort to ensure the safety of our homes for our residents. So more to come on this, and we'll keep this body updated accordingly. It's an appropriate time to just take a look back at the work over the course of the last year. 2017 has, I think, been a challenging year for this country, but and also our city. But with that, we have remained steadfast in our focus on our next gen goals. As you recall, there are 4 pillars of operate, and just to highlight one area, which is the tremendous work led by NYPD, but also supported by the investments of the de Blasio administration to invest in the physical infrastructure at several developments. Crime is down 7% across the authority, which is a tremendous step forward for this city and further indication that we can have safe communities within New York City public housing. So whether it's our partnership with NYPD or the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice or the numerous community partners that we've worked with, or the leadership of our capital team that has delivered on-time construction projects of cameras and CCTV and doors and all of the things that we know are sort of the basics of being a property manager. Those things are there and done well, and we recognize that residents are an important partner in that to ensure that those investments are maintained and kept in good working order. More than 6,200 lights have been installed throughout the MAP developments, the Mayor's Action for Neighborhood Safety developments, and there's more to come as we continue our capital program, as the Sandy program continues its progress. So this is just, I think, we should not underestimate the importance of what this means on a daily basis for people's lives. And so something to just take a moment to celebrate. A ton of work happening to really think about those spaces that animate our communities, whether they be playgrounds, basketball courts, green spaces. You heard us talk about the partnership that we launched with Kaboom this year, and we'll build 4 new playgrounds in 2018. The GM and are you there, Board Member Gonzalez? I can't see. My eyes are not very good. Oh. But this was at the Highland Houses where we celebrated a groundbreaking for a new playground, and so this is I think an important piece of healthy communities in addition to improving the actual brick and mortars of our buildings with the other spaces that not just NYCHA residents but the community at large take advantage of and utilize. Lots of other pieces. I talked about some of the success in our fund category. I think it also bears note that the work in our energy performance contracting work is, unlocking some $300 million of energy performance contracts and actual physical improvements in our over 58 developments, and just a tremendous amount of work led by our capital and finance teams, and want to thank them for their leadership on that. Continued expansion of next-gen operations. Now Manhattan is a part of that asset management, property management approach. Continued work, God, my eyes are terrible, sorry. Continued work on rolling out our online recertification process for public housing residents, and many other things that are moving us to being a more efficient landlord. The development team has just done a tremendous amount of work. I think there are something like 8 to 15 sites that are currently either on the streets or about to be designated. And, this is both continued work to support the Mayor's Affordable Housing Plan, continued work to raise important and critical revenues for the authority, and also rehabbing the homes of our residents. On the engaged front, just again, really exciting work in connecting residents to opportunity, whether that be a new Jobs Plus Center, another graduate class of our childcare business pathways, or the nationally acclaimed family reentry program, where other housing authorities are coming to us to talk about how we are reconnecting families to reside back in public housing after serving time. So just a lot of really exciting work here that we just wanted to make sure didn't get lost in the headlines and things that really reflect the hard work of staff and the commitment of our residents. And so we wish you all a very happy holidays, and I want to turn that over to the GM if there are any questions.
Just a statement.
Please.
I was very proud yesterday at the party to actually notice that we had one of our graduates from the entrepreneur program, and they were actually there giving away their goods. And by the way, it was very tasty. And it was just, I mean, I felt so happy to actually see it actually working, and we had someone physically there saying, "Here I am, one of your graduates." That was very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I'd like to share with you some performance indicators for the month of November 2017. These indicators will touch on work orders, vacancies, and customer satisfaction. For the month of November, at the end of the month of November, there were 155,184 open work orders, which was higher than the previous month, 148,700, and the previous year, 144,500. A review of the open work orders by failure code note that the big uptick was on paint, up by almost 4,300 work orders, and this is really driven by our effort to initiate our lead inspections and the follow-up work that's associated with that, and the paint work that's associated with that. This slide recognizes the overall work orders and work orders opened and work orders closed. In the month of November, NYCHA created 270,000 work orders compared to 245,000 in November 2017, and 247,000 created in 2016. So we created almost 22,000 more work orders in 17 than we did in 16. In November of 17, we closed 247,000 work orders compared to 227,000 in the month of October, and 216,000 in November of 16. Again, that's about 30,000 work orders that were closed during this period. So there is an increase in the overall number of work orders, but we continue to create more and do more, which is part of our Next Generation NYCHA Operations Initiative. This slide talks specifically of the skilled trade work orders that were open and closed. The second to the last bar, November 2017, notes that NYCHA created 236,000 skilled trade work orders in November 2017 compared to 106,000 last month and 114,000 last November. And we closed 123,000 in November of 2017 compared to 98,000 last month and 90,000 last November. So again, this skilled trades refers to and the number of work orders that we are creating and the number of work orders that we are closing. Skilled trades by service level. This skilled trades service level measures the authority's performance in addressing more complex repairs such as carpentry, painting, and plastering. The service level in November was 63.5 days, which was lower than the previous month, 68.3 days, but higher than last year, 62.4 days. To note that in November, there was a lower service level responses for our plumbers, 86.7 days to 83.7 days. And we are also looking at a lower response times for vendors, 149 days to 141 days, which are attributed to the faster skilled trade response. This slide notes the maintenance service levels, which measures the authority's performance in addressing simple repairs. We have a target of 7 days. In November 2017, the service level was 4.3 days, which was slightly higher than the previous month, 3.8 days, but was lower than last year of 6.8 days. Emergency work orders are work orders that are high priority items such as heat and hot water, gas, elevator outages, etc. We have a target of 24 hours to respond to these conditions. In November 2017, the average time to resolve emergencies was 16.1 hours, which was higher than last month, 9.7 hours, and last November, 15.2 hours. It is still within our 24-hour target. I note that 61% of the 55 1,000 emergency work orders that are identified. 61% were for heat and 31% were for hot water. So over 90% is for heat and hot water for the emergency responses. Apartment turnaround measures the average days to reoccupy a NYCHA apartment after it's been vacated. For a 30-day target. Year-to-date turnaround for November 2017 is 55.4 days, which was higher than last November, 52.5 days. Note that of the 6,003 apartments that were reoccupied year-to-date, 35% of them, about 22% of them, were done within 30 days, and about 33% of them were done within 60 days.
I have a question on that. Sometimes it takes, for say, more work in certain apartments than others. Do we take into account the difference that the time that it takes per apartment? For example, if this apartment takes 6 days as opposed to another apartment that takes 2 weeks due to whatever damages, do we take into account something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. For example, we have that 117 apartments are over 180 days, for example, we have so to your question, we actually average in those outliers that actually skews our performance, but it is how we are approaching it. That's why we continue to drill down to show how much can we do within the 30-day goal. And we're moving toward those goals as we start to deal with the outliers. Measures the percentage of residents satisfied with the overall experience with the repair. The information is obtained from the results of monthly robocalls conducted by the Customer Contact Center for closed work orders. In November 2017, 77.1% of residents reported that they were satisfied with the repairs. There were a total of 5,345 calls that were made. 4,760 residents responded, and of that, 3,670 noted that they were satisfied with the repair work that was being done. We will continue to look at this as a how do we get more information? We now have on our handhelds the opportunity to show if something was done good or bad. We're going to continue to work with IT to see how we can get more nuanced customer satisfaction data as we move forward for 2018.
I've had a chance to see one of those things in operation. It's amazing what it can tell you right on the spot.
Yeah. And again, that information is now uploaded to our larger metrics data, so we can have real-time feedback about how quickly we're doing things, and hopefully how well we're doing things is what we're also going to be moving toward.
As you looked at the most recent, so November 2017, it's coming down a little bit. How would you characterize it? Do you feel like there's an explanation, or is this part of the normal sort of variation that you might expect to see? Do you think there's something going on, or do you think?
Well, Board Member, to your point, this is a downward trend. So that part I do recognize. I think the one thing, though, as we have found out through just more empirical research, is that it's really recognizing resident dissatisfaction that an overall project was not completed. We will come in and do one part of a project, and it will check the box saying, yes, we fixed that pipe. But there's still plaster hole. There's still a hole in the wall. So when the question is asked, are you satisfied or not? Satisfied because the overall job is not done. So again, that's one of the kinds of things that contribute to this. But it is noted and disconcerting that this is a downward trend.
Yes. So so it looks like in the maintenance work orders and even the emergency work orders, we're doing better than prior years. And if I recall from the prior year, we're still doing better. And not for the skilled trade work order compared to last year overall. So I was just wondering about what explanation, like continued upward.
Clearly, one of the larger challenges we have in operations. There's so much that gets fed into this. It's the availability of materials on time when needed, the planning and logistics that go along with the work. There's a lot that we're looking at. The things that we are doing, though, we have a pilot right now of having skilled trades stationed at sites, so it reduces the travel, for example. The board approved the HD supply last month, and so we're looking at on-time delivery of materials to decrease that lag in response time. But boy, this is one of the big challenge areas we have right now in terms of the agency, and something that we believe that based on 2018 and the way that Karen has set up our budget, that we are anticipating a big reduction in terms of our vendor response time categories that gets put into the skilled trades. But again, these are things that we are looking at daily to see how we can improve the operations.
Questions? Are you done?
That completes the report of the general manager.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 1.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Karen Caldwell, CFO of NYCHA, and I'm here to present item number 1, 2, and 3. So item number 1 requests authorization for the approval of investment transactions that were performed by the authority's Treasury Department for the quarter ended September 30th, 2017. These transactions were performed in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Office of Public and Indian Housing, PIH, Notice 2002-13. The report outlines the authority's cash and investment position and provides a brief overview of operational changes in cash, changes in investments, and provides current and historical rates of return on the authority's investments as a measure of investment performance. We close out the third quarter with a net portfolio decrease of $108,157,546 from the prior quarter. Much of that decrease is due to the fact that we pay our water bill in the third quarter. We pay it annually for the year, and it's $175 million. The executive summary portion of the report outlines the major categories of cash flow affecting the changes in investment during the quarter. We thus ended the quarter with an investment portfolio of $1,226,625,295, which excludes fiscal agent investments and other cash balances totaling $145,774,414, largely comprised of Sandy recovery funds and energy performance contract funds that are held in escrow. During the third quarter of 2017, the authority earned $3,765,534 in income, representing a 3-month annualized rate of return of 1.19%, which exceeded a comparable benchmark of a 3-month Treasury bill rate of 101.05%, but slightly trailed the 12-month Treasury bill rate of 122 basis points or 1.22%. For the 12-month period, interest earned on our investment portfolio totaled $12,671,829, representing an annualized rate of return of 101 basis points or 1.01%, which exceeded the 3-month Treasury bill rate of 52 basis points and the 12-month Treasury bill rate of 81 basis points. Thus, we recommend that the members of the board approve the authority's third quarter investment resolution report. Any questions? Item number 2 requests authorization to approve the authority's 5-year capital budget plan for calendar years 2018 through 2020. As part of the 5-year capital budget plan, NYCHA is using a conservative approach in allocating the federal capital funds by using the 2015 grant amount of $306 million. In order to be able to perform additional capital work needed, an additional $86 million in funds from insurance proceeds from Hurricane Sandy were identified to supplement the anticipated shortfall in federal funding. All projects included in this plan were reviewed and approved by the Capital Budget Committee, which was implemented during the last capital plan. That committee consists of representatives from the administration, IT, operations, support services, and finance. The committee reviewed all submissions to determine how funds would be allocated and approve the overall plan. The 2018 five-year capital budget plan authorizes $5.314 billion in funding from federal, city, and state government, as well as funding from the disaster recovery or Hurricane Sandy. The Federal Capital Fund is funding that supports major renovation and systems upgrades at the authority's public housing developments. The Capital Fund supports city initiatives, which includes exterior restoration work at various NYCHA developments, renovations of roofs, security systems, and concrete repairs. The disaster recovery funding supports efforts specifically for repair and resilience of the Hurricane Sandy affected developments. The insurance proceeds will support elevator upgrades, tank decommissioning, and gas riser replacements. District attorney funding is there to support security upgrades, closed circuit TV, and exterior lighting at 18 developments. The remaining funds, state and public housing development grant, are residual allocations from prior awards that will be used toward electrical work and lighting and energy systems respectively. Are there any questions?
One question.
Mhm.
The $86 million that we identified for additional capital,
Yes.
was that what we received in reimbursement from regarding
So we still have
insurance and et cetera?
yes, but we still have an amount that is in dispute with them on the Hurricane Sandy insurance proceeds.
This
So
was sort of the first tranche.
This is
What
the
we
first
hope will
tranche.
be- What was that total amount that we think?
I want to say the total amount was 423 million that we thought we would receive, and we probably received somewhere around 300 if my memory serves me. 290. Okay, close. Okay, close. So there we are. Yes.
You referenced the this 2015 grant amount of 306. Can you explain? I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. So we get notice of the capital grant. We won't know until next year what it really is, but we have to start our planning. So we have to use an amount that we believe we're going to receive. We received in 2015 306 million. I believe last year we received 326 million. So instead of using the 326 and then having the planning happen and then finding out that we're short, we use the 306. If we get the good news that it's 326 or hopefully something north of that, then we will reconvene the capital committee and say, okay, good news is we have another $25 million. What was next on the list or what's a new priority, and then we'll.
And then can I go back to agenda item number 1 for?
Sure.
So I just realized so the returns from the investments, how are they, do they need to be used in any particular way, or they just go into the overall capital budget and can be used to anything, or budget and can be used to anything?
It depends. Most of our investment portfolio is made up of us investing our reserves for insurance. And so for the most part, it's going to go back into the pot of money that it was invested on behalf of. There is some amount that goes into the operating plan, yes.
Okay, got it. And I commend you. Obviously, the investment portfolio has performed well. I also noticed, though, that there are, diversified portfolio, some do better than others. I guess, could you just comment for a second, sort of high level, big picture? How do you decide to allocate the funds in whichever buckets, and are there any plans to reallocate?
Right. So we are prohibited in what we can invest in by HUD. HUD has a very conservative approach that tells us that we can basically invest in government securities. For the most part, those government securities would be treasuries. It would be callable, like Fannie and Freddie bonds. It would include callables, which is what we do invest in, and mortgages, if I were to categorize them. The two securities that would yield you the most are going to be the callables where we do invest and the mortgages where we don't invest. When you invest in mortgages, you have to have a pretty sophisticated hedging portfolio to go along with that because it's really subject to a lot more volatility than a callable portfolio. So our ability to invest has to be basically based on HUD and also based on sort of the risk profile that we want to take on.
Mhm.
So we do believe that callables probably makes the most sense, and that's where we're invested. What we have done over the last year, which we hadn't done for several years, was reinstituted repos, and the repo portfolios have done pretty well for us. I think we're earning somewhere 1.2% or on some of those portfolios. We've also been able to move balances to some of the banks where we hold money to get higher on our deposit balances. Our treasurer has been able to negotiate that with banks, as well as I say, this new repo activity has allowed us to make money on what is our idle cash. So I can just say that we have an active investment policy around the constraints that we have.
Right. Just one follow-up question. So would it make sense or to invest more in callables? It seems to be the highest performing out of the portfolio, or
we have to maintain a certain amount of liquidity. So callables, you have to lock up, it might be 3, 5, 7 years, whereas repos are overnight. So when you invest in repos, you have the cash the next day if you need to use it.
Right. Right. So it's liquidity as well.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. Item
Any
number.
other questions on item number 2?
Item number 3, request authorization to approve the authority's 5-year operating budget plan for years 2018 through 2022. In an effort to improve the use of limited resources, Finance conducted an in-depth assessment of the authority's organizational structure, led a functional review of units within each department with the objective of shifting resources to the front line. This resulted in the 5-year operating plan for years 2018 through 2022. For 2018, this plan includes a total $3.3 billion, which is obviously the same as our revenue, $3.3 billion. And we expect a total headcount of 10,684 employees in this new budget. In contrast, a couple of years ago, that number was 11,300. This plan includes the general fund funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which supports the authority's public housing program and administration. Major changes to the plan include streamlined supervision and realigned positions, updated payroll budget reflective of settlement of labor contracts, and reduced utility expenses based on current trends. The estimated 2018 general fund deficit is $54.3 million, not including the lead program. General fund deficits projected for 2019 through 2021 will be funded from the authority's operating reserves. The categorical grant fund supports various community development programs funded from federal and city sources. For 2018, funding is provided by the city for community and senior centers combating homelessness and lights program. The estimated surplus from this program is $66.3 million, which is more than offsets the deficit in public housing. The Housing Choice Voucher Program Fund supports the Section 8 leased housing program. Federal funding reserves are maintained for housing assistance payments and for administrative costs. The estimated performance of the Housing Choice Voucher Program is 0 for 2018. We expect it to break even. Any administrative deficits we expect to be funded through designated reserves maintained in accordance with HUD rules. All funds represents the consolidation of the general fund, the voucher program, and the categorical grants. Those three combined, we expect to have a $12 million surplus next year, excluding the lead program, with, again, the loss in public housing being more than offset by the categorical grants.
So the lead program is the lead investigation and remediation, right?
Sure.
Okay. And so where, and this is an estimate, the 200 million?
It's an estimate. We just put a number in, we put it below the line, and as we get more information, they will refine what that number is.
And do we expect this to be then an ongoing, so I see it extends out over the 5 years. So this will be an ongoing need and for the foreseeable future? This
It'll be, for the next 5 years, it is going to be an ongoing need. The only question is,
do we
in what
expect it
form?
to drop off after that, or after this initial round is done? Or I'm not sure if we know.
I mean, if you're asking me personally, yes, I do think it's going to drop off over time. I think we
Okay.
will have an initial hit, and if I look at the latest projections, it looks like it trails off a little bit over the next 5 years and comes down.
And so, and you broke it out. So is this, do we know where these funds are coming from? Is this funded or?
It is an unfunded need.
It's unfunded. And do we have an idea where this might come from?
Such a logical question.
I think we're in discussions about where that might come
Right.
from.
Okay. Got it. All right. And then looking forward, we have, so without the lead program,
Correct.
there's a surplus, but then looking forward, even without the lead program, there's a deficit. Again, what are your thoughts on how that's going to get reconciled?
So I think that's a really good question. Over the next 4 years, so 19, 20, 21, and 22, we expect somewhere around a $20 million deficit on those years. But the authority is constantly undergoing change. We have done a lot in terms of realignments over the last couple of years. There are other things that we believe we will be able to achieve over the next couple of years. The GM talked about supply management and procurement, and there are other things that we are currently working on. We're changing some system changes that will give us some efficiencies. So the hope is that these improvements will continue. You will be able to close the deficit. So though that's there, I mean, I'm very optimistic with what I know is in the pipeline that we will be able to, break even over those years coming. And I guess also I would say to you, in a $3.3 billion budget, to get down to the last 20 million, it's pretty close to break even. But I do believe we'll be able to do that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So I personally want to say thank you for your service.
Well, if I could take just a moment of personal privilege, I wanted to say to my colleagues, thank you for your teamwork. For my team, I really appreciate your commitment. For the board, I appreciate your trust. And for the chair and GM, I appreciate your leadership. Thank you very much.
Best of luck in your new endeavor.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Deborah Goddard for Capital Projects. Start with item number 4 is the recommended rejection of the bids for the gym upgrade at Forest Houses Community Center. Unfortunately, we discovered that part of the flooring subassembly was not included in the drawings. Therefore, the bid package was faulty. We'll rebid this month. Item number 5 is the request to ratify an amendment to the agreement for engineering and consulting services, as well as an increase to the amount of the contract for Facilities Strategies Group. FSG is working with us on our EPC work. When we originally contracted with them, we had projected a small pipeline. We've already doubled what that pipeline is. They have a very special expertise in terms of working with HUD on the engineering and utility reimbursement. That's outside the norm for the engineering companies in this field. The contract was for an amount of $1 million. We have incurred but not paid approximately $300,000 more than that million up to this point of this board meeting. So we are requesting ratification to amend the contract by that amount and pay those bills. Secondly, to cover our growing pipeline, we were requesting an amendment to the contract of $4.7 million.
So I had a question on this. Is the ratification makes sense to me? The 4.7, is that based on EPCs approved or EPCs, projected EPCs in the pipeline?
Both. We already have approved in number and in dollar value significantly more than we had projected at this point in time, as well as we expect 2 more to be approved, to go in and be approved by HUD this year.
So so the guy asked a different way, is that 4.7 proportionate to what the total EPC amount will be, or is it on each
No, it's
approved EPC? You see my point? Yeah.
No, it's generically for the pipeline.
Okay. Do you feel like it is industry standard in terms of or is it industry standard in terms of the percentage of the total EPC contract?
Because this is unique, I'm not sure we have an industry standard, but I trust in the negotiations and the review. This was reviewed by a number of departments too, because it is such a large increase. And the conclusion was, given their expertise, and this was appropriate.
So I recognize that it's not a not to exceed. I'd like to figure out a way for us to have this come back to the board at sort of whenever because you have to come back to the board for the additional EPC approval.
Yes.
So could we somehow do that in tandem with this amount, with this contract, so that we just have a sense of, we think we're going to need more, we think we need less. I a little bit tough to have the sort of the unanticipated EPC approvals tied to such a large amount of contractual capacity. I don't know how to do that procedurally, corporate secretary.
We also need to do a projection, because we need their services ahead of your vote on a particular EPC.
Okay.
So, if you give me a little bit of time during this meeting, we can, if it's okay, we can probably come back with amended amount.
Conditional approval, but it's better to just
Say it louder.
If she doesn't come back within time, we can do a conditional approval.
Okay.
Okay.
But not for the ratification. The ratification, we should pay
Yes.
those bills. Absolutely. It's just the sort of going forward.
I am sure Bomi is listening and is on her calculator
I'm sure she
right
is right
now.
now.
Yes, so we'll afford an opportunity to come back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Item 6 is the proposed fifth increase to the program management services contract for the Sandy recovery work. This is to, you've known them most recently as CB&I. We think this is the last increase. It's for the amount of slightly over $56 million, which brings the total value of their contract still to less than 5% of the overall $3 billion program that they are managing. You've seen increases as we've been able to project our work on an annual basis. So we are here in September of 14, July 15, March 16, and February 17. At this point, we are projecting through to the end of the program. So this increase covers the period of March 14, 2018 through June 30, 22, where we expect total closeout of our construction program. The total value of the contract with this amendment would be close to $147 million, again, less than 5% of the overall budget, and well within keeping of industry norms for a program of this size.
How does it work with the FEMA funds that are, so is this pre-approved as long as you meet certain thresholds, like, I don't know, less than 5% or the contract amount or whatever it is? Or is there any potential for the FEMA to say, oh, no, that contract doesn't?
No, actually, in the negotiation, I believe that we had a 5 to 7% allowance on
Right. We're in compliance. Okay, great.
Item number 7 is the recommended award for Isaac's House restoration associated with our Sandy program to AWL Industries, the low bidder, at almost $12 million. This is for building number 2 to repair mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, a new utility building, some floodproofing in the basements. AWL has been in operation since '79. Worked with us on a number of jobs. Their VNC is pending, therefore this award is not finalized until the VNC is cleared. I will note that the Inspector General did notify us some months ago about a concern with them using an electrical sub in the past that had not yet been approved. Staff in CPD is aware of this, and they're on the lookout to make sure this doesn't happen again. Their bid variance was 24% lower than our estimate. You're seeing this across a number of the larger bids at Sandy. This again is done by outside CM firm. This is the 4th CM firm that's showing these kinds of bid variances. Overall, our program is within 2% of our estimate, so we're being conservative. We really have not changed our approach to the estimating. Proposing 7 Section 3 hires.
Just a question, because
Sure.
I recognize that too. So if our CM estimators
Yep.
variances are lower,
Mhm.
but the NYCHA
Yes.
variances are high, explain that to me.
I don't have an explanation. I've actually asked to meet, and I will be meeting with our estimating, our in-house estimating team the week after the holidays. Part of it is our in-house folks are very concerned about not leading the market. But I think we've got to come to some acknowledgement that the market is changing, and we've got to deal with that in our estimating.
Meaning that we are being
Too conservative
too
in-house.
conservative in-house.
Mhm.
I'd love to know the outcome of that
Me,
discussion.
yeah, you'll have it
So picking up on, I guess, another comment you made that we're not changing our methodology.
on the
So
Sandy.
on Sandy,
Yeah.
but we're looking to change it on.
Well, you can see in both, you can see a difference, right? On the Sandy, the bids are coming in lower. And I think that's because our CM firms are looking at the market overall. Our Sandy work also gets larger, more comprehensive jobs where I think there's an efficiency. And so I would expect some difference in the pricing on our Sandy work. And I will say also on the AWL case, they are doing more work in-house and fewer subs. So that's a cost saving, but not 24%. But again, because they're only 2% off their overall program budget, Aptum has played it conservatively there to not tell the CM firms to change the way they're doing things. In-house in CPD, that's where I'm more concerned that we simply are not acknowledging the market when we do our estimates. And at some point, that's going to catch up with us in terms of projects we've budgeted. And where's our flexibility to fund all those? That's where I'm more concerned on that side of things.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is the recommendation for an award of a contract to Zaire Boyan, doing business as Dynamic Company, for the grounds improvement of Boston C4 houses. The contract is an amount of a little over $1.3 million. So it's the upgrade of the grounds and play equipment, which has largely deteriorated. Dynamic is a minority-owned business. Again, their VNC is pending, so this contract is not awarded until that is cleared. They are proposing 5 Section 3 hires, and this is funded through Council Member Andy King. And the last for capital is item number 9, the recommendation to award a contract to Project I Consultants for the community center kitchen and bathroom renovations at I-6 Houses and Holmes Towers. The amount is slightly over $2.1 million. These items were, sites were packaged together. They're within like 200 yards of each other, so it made sense to package 2 small jobs together for more efficiency. Project I has been in operation since '04. They've done projects with us satisfactorily. VNC has been requested, and therefore, again, until it's cleared, this contract is not awarded. They came in 26% higher. So here's that contrast you're seeing. Market conditions, and all of the bids came in between 26 and 90% higher than our cost estimate. Project I is proposing 8 Section 3 hires. This funding is a combination of funding from council members Kalos, Skarodnik, and Lappin. Any questions? Okay, I may be back on the other.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Berenice Tavares. I'm the interim senior vice president for support services and the director of NYCHA's emergency services department. And today I will be presenting items number 10 through 16. We'll start with item number 10. We are requesting to amend an agreement with National Grid Energy Management, also known as National Grid and formerly known as Keyspan Energy Management, to increase the not to exceed amount of $1,500,000. In 2007, the authority entered into an agreement with National Grid to provide third-party operation and maintenance of the heating systems at 5 developments: Boulevard, Linden, Coney Island, Haber, and Bronx River houses. The original term of the agreement years, with an option to extend to 2 additional 2-year periods and 1 additional 1-year period at the authority's sole discretion. The authority exercises renewal option to extend the agreement for a total of 10 years, which will expire on January 31st, 2018. Additional time is required by the authority to procure a new contract in order to ensure a high level of heat and hot water service during the heating season at the aforementioned 5 developments. The term of the agreement must be extended and its capacity increased to cover the cost. Authorization is requested to amend the National Grid agreement to increase the not to exceed amount of $1,500,000 in order to fund the provision of services during the extended 1-year term, commencing on February 1st, 2018, and continuing through January 31st, 2019. Just a little summary of what they will be providing. They will be providing supervision, labor, tools, parts necessary to operate, maintain, repair heating systems at the 5 developments listed above. In addition, the agreement includes assisting the authority's current staff in addressing individual resident heat complaints. Any questions on that?
So one question, which is, so is this like a standard operating cost? Like we need somebody, whether it's different, I guess, operating model?
Well, this particular one is pending a larger contract, which is going to include a larger portfolio that will probably come before the board in 2018. National Grid is currently providing these services at these 5 developments, and they're performing very well at this time. So we're asking to extend.
I see. But these are standard, when you refer to repairs, for example, these are standard repairs. These are not major overall.
Right, just standard repairs.
Okay.
Item number 11 and 14. We're requesting to award 4 requirement contracts
All right, 2 questions related to these. So I noticed that New York Boiler has all, I guess, 4 or 5. So just, I guess, an administrative question. Are there any efficiencies, I guess the wisdom of having one contract with New York Boiler for all these different boroughs versus having separate contracts? Just want to understand the thinking.
I think this was the best responsible bidder who responded to the request. And some of the other respondents, I don't know if procurement is here, didn't have the required licensing to conduct the work.
So it just so happens that New York Boiler, but okay, got it. So, and then when we do repairs like welding, for you referenced defective weld, are the boilers, do we not have warranties with the actual original boiler manufacturer? Or do we try and make claims, or is there any other way to supplement the costs here? Like if we're repairing defective boilers?
I believe all these boilers
they're past their
lifespan at this point.
Half of our boilers are more than 50 years old.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So if I might, just to
Sure.
provide context, I think that there's a lot of work that the Director of Heating has been engaged in with our Office of Strategic Initiatives to really try and rethink heating operations, which is sort of the earlier item that you referenced, which is because of the great work of EPCs and some of our major mod work, relying on third-party support
Right.
to make sure that those boilers are kept in good condition
Right.
and delivering good services to residents, while also working with the unions and others on a new training effort to support the staff that are now concentrated on some of our most challenged boilers where
Right.
they literally are original to the building, some of them.
Right,
So the
okay.
warranties don't even exist anymore.
Right.
And ideally, right, the right thing to do would be to replace them, but we know
Right.
that this is approximately $6 billion. So we are $6 billion. That was an estimate. And so,
Yeah.
you know, these are, I think, sort of practical and an unfortunate
Right.
need to have these types of services on hand when you get a welcome.
Yeah, and we also want to ensure that the new boilers that, you know, have been replaced are maintained and kept up, you know, in the future. So we need to hire a certain skill set in order to do that.
Fifteen.
15. Thank you. Item 15 and 16, requesting authorization of a change order for 2 requirement contracts between the New York City Housing Authority and American Security Operating Company, also known as American Security, to survey, inspection, testing, repair, and alterations to fire alarm systems. Orders are required in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term. Due to the substantial amount of releases for complete replacements on these 2 contracts to accommodate the huge capacity of inspections and repairs, it was deemed necessary to increase the not to exceed amount of $376,715.70 to ensure that capacity will be maintained for inspections and repairs until new contracts are awarded. And this is for 2 boroughs, for the borough of Manhattan and Brooklyn East and Brooklyn West. Thank you.
Number 17.
Good morning. Kathy Pennington, Acting VP for NGO Operations, and I'm here to seek approval for resolution number 17, which is requesting approve to a change order to this requirement contract awarded to American Security Operating Company, LLC, for service of intercom systems. Require initial board approval and as subsequently amended for an initial 2-year term with 1-year renewal option in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term, which commenced on April 25th, 2016, and is continuing through April 24th, 2018. And just by way of some background, what happened in Queens and Staten Island is that we exhausted all of the available funding on this contract for intercoms. And in 2016, we had a total of 2,073 intercom work orders, of which 169 were for the entire systems within buildings. And in 2017, we had 1,954 vendor intercom work orders, of which 280 were for entire systems, meaning entire buildings had to have intercom replacement. So we just spent out the allotted amount sooner. And so this is to provide funding until the new contract will commence next year.
That's a question just in
Yes.
general. Are we, when we are replacing, doing a major mod or a security enhancement, is it our preferred policy to do layered access? Like, are we sort of slowly getting out of the intercom business?
Chair, I'm going to have to check with you on that. I believe these are just repairs of
These are
existing
repairs.
systems.
Understood.
I don't believe this is a repair or an upgrade. I think we require new funding because the cost is higher, but I'll double check on that.
Just a question.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Jew, Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer. This morning, I'm presenting Board Resolution Number 18, which seeks authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, and NYCHA to integrate administrative services as related to the authority's fleet maintenance and vehicle fueling contracts. Next Generation NYCHA Strategic Plan, the authority seeks to integrate central office functions with those provided by the City of New York. Under this MOU, DCAS will assume duties related to the provision of vehicle repair, fueling, and administrative services for the authority's on-road vehicles and equipment that are currently serviced by authority staff, including providing the authority with fleet management and confidential daily performance reporting, contract administration for repairs, servicing, and contract tows, coordinating motor vehicle inspections and preventive maintenance inspections for all authority vehicles, providing repairs for collision damage to authority vehicles, fueling services via fuel contracts and DCAS fuel cards, which shall be in addition to any available authority contract providing for fuel services, and providing safety training for our authorized drivers. First, DCAS for expenditures in fleet servicing and fuel. Based on current and historical vehicle repair expenditures, we estimate that the authority will spend $2,500,000 on vehicle repairs in 2018, with an anticipated 5% annual increase for each of the subsequent 4 years, totaling a 5-year estimated cost of $13,814,078. Regarding fuel costs, we estimate that the authority will spend $4,500,000 to fuel vehicles and equipment in 2018. Understanding that environmental and economic factors significantly impact fuel prices, the authority estimates a 10% increase for each year for a 5-year total cost estimate of $27,472,950. The total estimated cost of these two services for the 5-year period beginning January 1st, 2018, continuing through December 31st, 2022, will be $41,287,028. Associated with the administrative services, the authority will reimburse DCAS only for the monthly service cost, and no agency fee will be incurred under this MOU. Therefore, I'm requesting your approval to enter into the MOU with DCAS to integrate administrative services as related to the authority's fleet maintenance and vehicle fueling contracts. Any questions? Thank you.
One, so related to the staffing, so is it 3 staff positions will go to DCAS? Is that the sort of sum total of the changes that will affect NYCHA and
Correct.
Count,
There
yeah.
are 3 staff who work on maintaining these contracts with these vendors here at NYCHA, and so they will be redeployed to DCAS as part of this.
Thank you, Carrie.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
She wasn't watching today. But in terms of item number 5, Facility Strategies Group, aside from the ratification, we would ask for an increase of $1 million for the current 12 months. That is 2 EPCs that have been approved, 2 that are going in, and we've been burning at about $1 million. Yep.
That's much better. Thank you. So we can just amend the.
So the
item.
resolution will reflect,
Yeah.
and your vote will reflect that it will be the ratification of the 300,000 and the additional 1
1
million.
million for the year. Great.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, distinguished board, GM, I'm Chief Nelson, VP for Public Safety. Item number 19. I'm seeking the authorization to adopt the National Incident Management System, NIMS. In 2003, the President of the United States directed the Secretary of Homeland Security to develop the National Incident Management System, NIMS, through Homeland Security Presidential Directive number 5. NIMS is a comprehensive national approach to incident management that is applicable at all jurisdiction levels and across functional disciplines. It is intended to provide a framework for managing the full spectrum of potential incidents, hazards, and impact, regardless of size, location, or complexity. NIMS includes 6 key components: and management, 2, preparedness, 3, resource management, 4, communication and informational management, 5, plan maintenance, 6, supporting technologies. The NIMS is a systematic, proactive approach to guide departments and agencies at all government, non-government organizations, the private sector, to work together seamlessly and manage incidents involving all threats and hazards, regardless of cause, size, or location. At present, NYCHA does not have a comprehensive emergency management plan which addresses all hazards. Its emergency operations procedure written and amended several times. Office of Emergency Management or a staff of subject matter experts on managing emergencies. And there is no clearly defined and institutionalized set of triggers for activation of plans and emergency procedures. Adopting NIMS would bring NYCHA into compliance with the requirement of Homeland Security, Presidential Directive 5, and relevant guidance documents. It will align NYCHA, the state, the federal government, in a common framework for emergency response. It will institutionalize the Office of Emergency Management at NYCHA and provide the basis for OEM to manage preparedness, response, and recovery from major emergencies and disasters. It will create accountability within the authority for tasks associated with managing major emergencies and disasters. And it will provide the framework for the development of a comprehensive emergency management plan for the authority as called for in numerous audits and after action reports following several incidents and emergencies. I recommend the board members approve this resolution adopting NIMS as the system by which the authority addresses large emergencies or disasters in accordance with the authority's bylaws, delegations, record, and other authority procedures. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple. So what are the so everything you said makes sense and it all sounds good. What are the practical implications for this organization? Is there how major a shift in terms of, I guess, staffing and or whatever else?
Well, all the staff in place now would be adequately trained. Let's just look at what's going on in California right now. You have so many outside agencies coming into California to fight that fire. Well, everyone, after 9/11, we realized that we have to correlate all our activity and work together on things. If something should happen here in New York, a water main breaks, and the tip of the Bronx, every building has no water in NYCHA. Well, NYCHA is not going to just manage that by themselves. There'll be other resources coming in. Now we all work at a team. We're all speaking the same language. We all are trained in how to handle these emergencies. NYCHA right now, just like when I was in the PD, we knew what we were doing. So a need to put something in place where all governmental and non-governmental agencies can work together as a whole. This is something that was put in place in 2003. The city adopted it in 2005. NYPD adopted it in 2007. It's time for NYCHA to get on board and be compliant with the rest of the city.
And how long will implementation of this policy shift take?
This is the first stage right here, to adopt the resolution and go moving forward. We are in the process right now of training our key personnel on what NIMS is all about and what roles they're going to play. We're going to be moving forward and start training all of our units. It's something that if, God forbid, there's another tragedy or something like that happens, anybody can step in here and know their role, and it'll be an interchange between the different agencies. We have to be in compliance so we can work with other agencies to handle our emergencies.
That'll take
It's going to take it's a culture change. It can take about a year.
What's your work plan?
Homework plan?
6 months, 12 months. What is that? That's what it says.
All right, we're doing it in stages. Within a year, we should be up to snuff
and having everyone trained properly and working closely. Hopefully by the hurricane season, we'll have enough in place that we can adapt and get away from our old orders, what we're doing now, and adapt NIMS procedures in its entirety.
Got it. But and you said the city's already doing this
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
Office of Emergency Management.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
I would just add what is helpful about the NIMS framework is because NYCHA does have an Office of Emergency Management, we have an Emergency Services Department. These are not unfamiliar things to the agency, and people know how to rally around when things occur. I think what is so helpful about this framework that Chief Nelson and Jay Stakenberg have put forward is it provides a very clear and almost separate set of folks to be accountable in the after action, right? So that we still have the daily business of managing 2,600 buildings, but there needs to be sort of an on-point team if and when things happen. And one of the key parts is to define, when NIMS actually is triggered, right? Is a blackout of a building a NIMS incident versus, as a blackout of a borough or something like that. So that's the work that that office will be engaged in, and we'll come back to the board with updates as to where that work is, because it really does affect all of the agency.
Thanks.
Thank you. Item 19 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
1 second, I'm sorry.
Do we need to note that amendment? Yeah.
I will
Oh,
as soon as you guys vote.
Okay.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Just should be noted that Board Member Young stepped out of the meeting after items 1 and 2, so she will not have voted for items 3 through 19.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
Unanimous?
No, again?
Yeah,
Move.
we have a unanimous, yeah.
say that again.
Okay.
Do it again.
Okay.
From the top.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 19 items? Let's just start over.
Move.
Okay,
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It is noted that Board Member Young will be noted for board resolutions 1 and 2 and not voting for items 3 through 19. Okay?
Okay.
Now,
Wait, I'm sorry, but are we amending?
before.
Okay.
Yeah, I noted that
You
before.
noted it in the record.
Mhm.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
so
the
that's what
resolution
it
will,
was.
yes, the resolution will be changed to reflect that it is the $300,000 ratification and the 1 million versus the 4.7 million. Yes, that was noted earlier. I'm sorry.
Want the record to be
Yeah, yeah.
accurate.
Mhm.
Okay, sure.
Now.
Okay, so I move that the members be authorized to meet in executive session today to discuss the civil investigative demand.
Moved. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
It only gets
Aye, we
easier
gotta
from
go.
here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Take care.